great show coming up. But before we get into the meat, let's have some hors d'oeuvre or something like that. Now, and when I say we, I'm not using the royal we, my wife and I, we have 4 children. But you know what? They're grown now. They're grown up. And I miss the old days when they'd be unable to sleep this time of year, you know, asking when it was coming and would they see him. The excitement was thick and wide and roaring in its glamour and its beauty. Oh, I miss all that. Because tomorrow, obviously, is Earth Hour, that special time after global warming advent and before climate change New Year. I know it's deeply religious and that sometimes we ignore the real meaning of it all. We're all terrible sinners. Our carbon footprint is worse than the Holocaust. North Americans are scum and so on. Yeah, I know all of that, but surely we are also allowed some of the flummery, the sweet, silly, but quite charming, childish and childlike belief in, well, of course, in Father David, in Santa Suzuki, the funny-looking fellow with the false beard and the jolly laugh who comes down our chimney to take huge amounts of our money for giving the same speech over and over again, being rude to people he doesn't regard as being important, making awful television shows with taxpayers' cash, and generally being contemptuous to anyone who disagrees with him, and even to those who, he just doesn't like very much, which is most of you out there, really. Obviously, it's difficult for adults to believe in such a figure. I mean, how could it be true? How could such a ludicrous character be allowed to exist, be tolerated, and function in the real world? But you know what? For many Canadians, believing in him makes their lives a little easier. And if it does, then what can be wrong with the fantasy? I mean, look, does the Tooth Fairy cause harm? Does the Easter Bunny really hurt people? No. So what's wrong with a naive, foolish, but fulfilling belief in Santa Suzuki? And is he real? I mean, I don't know. Our youngest, when she was 4 years old, I would think, was convinced that she saw him flying through the air in a sleigh, being pulled by 8 CBC executives, one of them with a very shiny red nose. Mind you, he was also holding a bottle of cheap blended whiskey, so the nose may have been a non-Rudolph characteristic. So what? She believed it. And her teachers at school supported her in this because they even go to a Suzukiist church every Sunday. I know it surprised me too, but apparently there are churches where people kneel down and pray to Santa Suzuki and also St. Leighton, Louis the Messiah, and a whole litany of angels and even some fairies. So when Earth Hour arrives tomorrow, form a circle, hold hands, say a little prayer to the great government grant in the sky, and thank Santa Suzuki that there is still hope in the world. Then, in imitation of him, be incredibly rude to someone and call yourself doctor, even though most people with doctorates would never be so arrogant and absurd. Oh, I wish it could be Earth Hour every day, where the CBC and Suzuki take your pay. Bless you, common people. Bless you. Earth Hour, we like to call it a Human Achievement Hour here at Sun News. I was looking through the list of people who support it. Supermodel Miranda Kerr. I'm sorry, I don't know who that is. Cricket legend Tendall. There's a cricket legend here. I pretend he doesn't support it because he's a good guy. But some of the others, Colombian television presenter Claudia Bahamon. Stephen Fry, who's a very funny writer in Britain, but he supports anything and everything they offer to him, really. Yoko Ono, which is completely insane. We'll talk about her later. Coldplay, the band that seems to take other people's songs and pretend they're their own. I mean, and Al Gore. So the usual types really supporting Earth Hour. And there's Earth Day as well. And David Menzies, he's ill at the moment, but he generally tries to turn on every single light and gets armoured cars and things and turns all the engines on. Just ignore it, it's my advice to you. Just ignore the thing. But what does an expert think? Well, let's go to the expert. Climatologist Tim Ball joins us by Skype, which is powered by electricity, I think, in Victoria. Welcome to you, my friend.
Well, how are you, Michael?
I'm very well. Now, Earth Hour, should we just ignore it, or should we be actually quite concerned about it?
No, you should ignore it, because if you do it, turn off your lights, it actually ends up burning up more energy because of the systems keep running regardless. You can't turn off a coal plant or or any other form of electrical production on an hourly basis. So it isn't going to save anything. And if you do shut it down, then the demand on the system when you switch them back on increases the demand. So scientifically, it's absolutely rubbish. And of course, the thing, for me, what it underlines is the almost 1.5 billion people in the world that have no electricity at all. If we're going to celebrate it for any reason, it should be for that.
That's a very good point, because electricity has transformed the world. It's meant that people who have nothing can suddenly feed themselves and raise their family. We've evolved. At one point, we thought enslaving people, enslaving a group we had conquered, whatever background they came from, was the way to increase productivity. Thank the Lord, morally and intellectually and scientifically, we progressed from that. What electricity did was really to impose equality on the world. You can all have access to this. But now the white liberal elitists are saying, no, you guys can't have it anymore.
Yeah, and of course that's something that Paul Dreesen in his book Eco-Imperialism underlines very well. The idea that we impose our green agenda on countries that are suffering, and we can see it with the biofuels, that you're turning corn into fuel for your car when the price of the corn goes up so that poor people can't afford it. There's another reason for celebrating Earth Hour, but it's not the one they want, and that is that it's a good idea for people to see the future that these people are leading us to. Because if you go without power, you're going to find out what the future looks like. And if you want an example of that, go and look at England right now. Because of the energy policies, they haven't got enough gas to keep people's homes warm. They've run out of energy because they followed this green policy. Ontario is suffering the same way. And so the Earth Hour could be a good illustration to these people exactly what future we're looking at if we continue to pursue their policies.
Mm-hmm. If someone came up with an idea that for one day or 1 hour even, you went out and every person who was suffering, they were on the street, they were poor or whatever, you actually tangibly and physically helped them. That would be a wonderful thing, but this is so easy. It's such tokenism. Because look, if you turn it off for an hour, nothing's really going to happen. It doesn't. You sit around with candles saying how noble and liberal you are. It doesn't achieve anything, but you feel good by doing it.
Well, of course, but it is tokenism, and it's actually part of the whole idea of environmentalism as the new religion. Because one of the parts of the debate about climate change and so on is that Darwin effectively defeated religion, or at least science used Darwin to defeat religion. And we saw that ridiculous trial, the monkey trial, where they ruled that only Darwinism could be taught in the schools. Well, what are you so afraid of? And, of course, getting rid of religion got rid of our reason for being here. And one of the things that happened after Darwin was the universities went from being just natural sciences and the humanities to now they are natural sciences, the humanities, and the social sciences. And, of course, the social sciences are the largest departments in universities. And so that you got rid of the God for us being here, so the young people are looking for some moral direction. I mean, a poll the other day in the U.S. showed that 72% of even Democrats in the U.S. said that we need some religious background. We need some moral compass. And I got into a lot of trouble one day when I said that Osama bin Laden's comment that the West has lost its moral direction is absolutely right.
Yeah.
But here's the point. I don't want his moral direction either.
No, well, exactly.
Yeah, and of course, so if you're going to have environmentalism as a religion, then you need these token saint days, like other religions do. You have those days in which you draw people's attention to what their religion is about.
That is extremely pertinent, because when you do try and expunge religion, it doesn't leave a vacuum. It has to be replaced by something else. It was Christianity that gave the world universities. If you don't believe me, do some research on it. And it's interesting with Darwin, because there is evolution without Darwinism. There were evolutionists before Darwin. I mean, Darwin's father, for goodness sake, had very similar theories. Some of the ancients had a form of evolutionary thought. Darwinism is something different. There is something amoral in Darwinism that is quite separate from evolution. He's being taught in schools rather than evolution.
Well, of course, the thing with adopting environmentalism and its underpinning of Darwinism as your religion is that you're then adopting the laws of nature, which is completely contrary to what they're proposing, because, as Herbert Spencer, the sociologist, said, it's survival of the fittest. And you see these moral contradictions occurring. For example, out on the west coast of the U.S. here, where the Makah Indians announced that they wanted to go back to their traditional ways of hunting whales. Well, the environmentalists who'd chosen these noble savages as proof of their way were absolutely at a moral and philosophical dilemma.
Yes.
And so this is the part of this whole use of environmentalism, Gaia, Mother Nature as your religion. This is the contradiction in it. And of course, what you see is you then look at the differences between that and normal religions, which have some philosophical base that fits with a better world and a different world. And if we went back to purely animalistic approach, it would be a disaster.
Yeah. Well, I have a very simple solution, by the way, for the problem of what's going on in California. The native tribe, instead of hunting whales, should actually hunt the environmentalists, and then everyone will be happy, and it would also be a great deal of fun. As always, my friend, a great pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.